Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer and to part 3 of our ongoing AI Masterclass. So let's just dive right into this, shall we? We are living in an era where artificial intelligence is moving at absolute breakneck speed. It's completely transforming our workplaces, our healthcare, and honestly, our daily routines. But as you know, with that incredible power comes a massive responsibility. Today, we are unpacking exactly how society and organizations actually build essential guardrails around these rapidly advancing AI systems, drawing directly from foundational AI governance training materials. I mean, think about it for a second. Who is actually steering this massive, powerful technological engine? How do we ensure it doesn't just go completely off the tracks and mess with your daily life? Who holds artificial intelligence accountable when it makes a mistake, or worse, when it actually causes harm? It's a totally fascinating question, and the answer really lies in a robust system of governance, risk management, and compliance. All right, here's our game plan for today's masterclass. We're going to break this complex global governance puzzle into 5 quick chapters: understanding the AI challenge, classifying the tech, building the actual guardrails, navigating high-risk systems, and finally, managing the entire AI lifecycle. Let's get to it. Chapter 1. The AI Governance Challenge. So, why exactly does artificial intelligence need a totally different playbook compared to the traditional software we've been using for decades? Look, AI governance isn't just some defensive shield, it's an absolute necessity. With traditional software, you've got a strict set of programmed rules, right? But AI introduces unprecedented complexity and opacity. It's that infamous black box problem where, honestly, sometimes even the developers aren't exactly sure how the AI arrived at a specific conclusion. Add in its autonomy, the crazy speed and scale it operates at, its massive dependency on data, and yeah, a real potential for harm. Because of all that, your traditional IT governance simply doesn't cut it anymore. It really all boils down to the outputs. Traditional systems are deterministic. You input X, you get Y. Boom, highly predictable. But AI, it's often probabilistic. It lives in the world of probabilities and predictions. And because it's essentially making highly educated guesses, these systems need much stricter guidelines around risk assessment and how users interpret them. We literally have to govern for a whole range of possible outcomes, not just one guaranteed result. Which brings us to Chapter 2, Classifying AI. Because before an organization can govern an AI system, you really have to know exactly what kind of beast you're dealing with. How do we categorize these incredibly complex tools using a standardized global framework? Enter the OECD framework. This is a brilliant, globally recognized tool to classify AI across 5 distinct dimensions. You start way out with people and planet, looking at the big societal impacts. Then you zoom in a bit to the economic context, like what sector is this operating in? Is it critical? Next is data and input, figuring out how the model actually builds its view of the world. Then you evaluate the AI model itself, and finally, the specific tasks and output, like forecasting or facial recognition. Mapping an AI against these 5 pillars is an absolute game changer for uniformly assessing risk. All right, Chapter 3, Building AI Guardrails. Now that we know how to classify a system and understand its context, what actual guardrails do we need to build to oversee it? To get true accountability, organizations have to create rock-solid internal policies. This whole process starts with a use case assessment, evaluating the viability and functional implications before a single line of code is even written. From there, you've got to build out strict policies for risk management, data acquisition, model development, all the way through to deployment, monitoring, and incident management. And the really crucial thing here, AI governance cannot exist in a vacuum. It has to integrate seamlessly with the security and privacy processes your company already has in place to get everyone on board. The huge takeaway here is that ethics cannot just be an afterthought. No way. It has to be baked right into the foundational architecture from day one. That's what we call ethics by design. By prioritizing these principles right out of the gate, organizations actively combat potential abuse and keep end users safe. It's kind of like the structural integrity of a skyscraper, right? You build it into the foundation. You don't just paint it on the walls at the very end. Let's move into Chapter 4, Navigating High-Risk Systems. Because let's be real, not all AI poses the same kind of threat. Think about it. A customer service chatbot is fundamentally different from an AI that's diagnosing medical conditions. High-risk sectors demand incredibly strict provider obligations. If an AI is running critical infrastructure like transport or energy, a glitch is a massive physical safety risk. If it's making consequential decisions about your healthcare, your credit score, or whether you get that job you applied for, there's a serious risk of unfair access. That's why those deployers absolutely must conduct fundamental rights impact assessments. Even in education, an AI scoring an exam could lead to a totally biased allocation of opportunities, which means stringent conformity assessments are non-negotiable. So if you're the one developing this high-risk AI, the burden is heavily on you. Providers have the most extensive obligations globally. You have to definitively prove your system is safe before it ever hits the market. We're talking about implementing rigorous life cycle risk management, maintaining incredibly detailed technical documentation, ensuring your training data is actually representative and monitored, and conducting exhaustive pre-market impact assessments. The stakes are simply too high to wing it. And that leads us to our final chapter. Chapter 5, the AI lifecycle. Because governance, it's definitely not a one-and-done checkbox. Governance is a continuous cradle-to-grave journey. It kicks off with designing and building, where you gather requirements. Then you move right into training and testing the model. Step 3 is deployment and continuous monitoring out in the wild. And finally, Step 4, which honestly gets overlooked way too often, is end-of-life decommissioning. You've got to actively manage governance at every single one of these physical stages. Just to show you how intense this gets, let's zoom in on Step 2. The training and testing phase alone requires a staggering amount of documentation. Developers can't just throw their hands up and say, well, it works. They have to meticulously document unit testing, integration testing, validation, performance under stress, security vulnerability testing, and crucially, bias testing. You have to definitively prove the AI's predictions are fair and interpretable. It's exhausting, sure, but it's a vital layer of accountability. Now, once the system actually goes live, organizations face a bit of a dual challenge. On one hand, manually validating these complex algorithms is just way too slow, too expensive, and super prone to human error. So you absolutely need automated governance tools to keep up with regulatory speeds. But on the flip side, you cannot completely remove the human element. Organizations literally must empower trained humans to review and even override automated decisions when necessary. It's this delicate, constant balancing act between machine efficiency and human judgment. Finally, when a system just doesn't deliver value anymore, it enters the critical decommissioning phase. And no, this isn't just flipping a switch and unplugging a server. The AI has to be carefully, methodically dismantled. You have to manage the underlying data, the models, the infrastructure. You have to secure the documentation, get official risk sign-off, and actually conduct post-mortem reviews. All of this just to guarantee there are no lingering risks to the public or the company. And that is a fascinating challenge to conclude part 3 of our masterclass on. We spend so much time obsessing over how to build the future of AI, right? But it really leaves you wondering, is your organization truly prepared to pull the plug on the outdated AI of yesterday? Because safely making way for tomorrow requires just as much governance, transparency, and care as building it in the first place. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those tough questions, and I'll catch you in the next one.